And boom, we don't need a click track. And yay! Woo! Greetings, weirdos. I am here. I've got my coffee. Anyways, I did this weirdo little movie a couple of months back as part of Joel Haver's make a movie instead of watching the Oscars thing. I've really enjoyed it. And I've been trying to keep up with just making new stuff since, because it's fun. Unfortunately, I've also got long COVID, as they call it, and feeling the effects of it right now. So I'm not able to do any other recordings. So I figured, hey, why not do a commentary track to a movie almost nobody has ever seen? And here we are. So let's get this thing started. Let's see. Let's sync it up. Doom. Ah, yes.
Never embark on a project with limited time because you would never have time to.
I always love the fact of starting the whole thing with a quote that doesn't make any sense, followed by a title that also doesn't make any sense. It should be fairly obvious that, given the constraints of this project, that I had to write the whole thing, or really record all the vocals in 3 hours and then spend a week actually editing and putting things together, that, things are going to be a bit weird. And the title very obviously was written before I even knew what the story was. Here we go. That's just the way it is.
Musical variety, whatever thing. An epic tale of friendship, space,
Yeah.
machinery, music, singing, dance.
So the way I did this was that I started recording the narrator, and whilst I was recording him, because I've been recording music for the last 35, 40 years or whatever, I have a rather large catalogue that I can go back to and pick ideas and sometimes just pick recordings. And so I would record the narrator and then add a bunch of songs together and just have them in the timeline to see how long everything would be, and then kind of work weave a story around the songs. Like this first thing was originally called Space Baby. I wrote it end of last year, and it was because my son asked me to do a dance track for him to use in some capacity. So I did this, and it eventually morphed into the intro to this. So, yes. Yay! I've got to say, I love how bizarre the Druids turned out to be. That they would literally just abandon a ship for 1,000 years in the hopes that someone took it, so they could just reclaim the ship and sacrifice the people who took it. It doesn't make any sense, but I love it. It's brilliant. Oh, and there are exactly, I think, 2 different space images that I use for all the backgrounds. And it looks awful. Oh god. There are some parts of this movie that look better than the others, but most of it looks absolutely horrendous. Which is fun. I also find that even if it looks horrendous, just the slightest movement gives life to a lot of stuff. So this used to be a static image until I just figured out how to twist the image a bit. Yeah. So it all ends up being about family, which is nice. Honestly, in the beginning, I had no idea where this was going, any of it. It was just rambling, and then round about halfway through, I kind of knew where it was heading. Which is one of the reasons I actually enjoy writing stuff like this, spur of the moment and crazy and improvised, because you always reach that moment where it's like the story writes itself, whereas if you're writing and you've got months and months to do it and you spend ages and ages actually working things out, you lose that stuff. Oh, and I should point out this that the mixing in this movie is atrocious at times. You can barely hear some of the things, but fun though. Ah, beautiful. Always end on a different tonic, yes. Oh, this is one of the 3 things about this movie that I regret that I didn't fix, because I didn't notice it. This part, for whatever reason, it's like 10 seconds of complete, blackness, nothing happens, just this note lingering. It wasn't supposed to be 10 seconds, it was supposed to jump into this directly. But, here we are. Yeah.
He looks out the window at space. I feel that I need to expand my backstory.
I also like the fact that when I look back at this now, I remember where I was in the writing process, because it was very... In some ways, this whole thing was very linear. You start at the beginning, and then the more things you add to the story, the more the story comes together. But here, in the beginning, it's all over the place. The fact that you have one song describing the backstory, and then literally another song directly after describing the backstory. Ah, it's beautiful. This song was originally written, let's see, early 2020, something like that. Like the basic structure of it. And for the longest time, I couldn't figure out what song it sounded like, because there's parts of it that sound like the dum 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 dum. That part sounds so much like another song, and for the longest time I couldn't figure out where it was, until recently when I suddenly remembered, that's Frank Zappa from Joe's Garage. It's the Packet Goose. It's the music is the best speech. That's where it comes from, that part. So go check out Zappa, yes. Oh yeah, and the first instance in this movie where I forgot to actually work out the lyrics to a melody, so I just had the guide track stay as it was, just gibberish. Because some of these songs didn't actually have a melody worked out for them, so I just ended up improvising over a existing track. I love this part. There's something about this rambling style of lyrics where it's like you subtly repeat the same phrase over and over and over, and you're literally saying the same thing over and over. I just love it. I actually really like this song. Well, I like all of them, but this one, it's special. It's nice. Subtle camera move. Oh god, this was one of the most complicated shots in the entire production, and it's literally one of the worst looking ones as well. So the idea was it would zoom out on Graham when he's in the ship, and it would fly through the window, and then you would see the exterior of the ship. But it took such a long time to work all this stuff. This was before I knew that there was such a thing as an alpha channel. So this is before I figured out that you could save transparency in images. So I had to like fake green screens on everything, which is one of the reasons why it looks so awful. But it's, you know, I could say it's the AI art that makes it look horrible, but honestly, it's a lot of what I did with that AR art as well. Yep, those weirdo druids.
And so the Druids returned, and there was a frightful battle about
Yeah, there was so many instances like this when I was doing the narrator where I just mumbled words and they kept like, yeah, it just, oh. And I'm glad I kept that in, because it adds charm to the whole thing, but it was so frustrating when I actually was doing the recording. The druids came, they wanted that kind of stuff. Oh god, that looks awful. Yes, and here we are with the druids. As you can see, the druids have got a slightly pinkish tint to them, just to differentiate from Graham's gang. Except in the very end, when the leader of the druids, when they fly into the sun, and I forgot to give him a pinkish tint. But yeah, here we are. Oh. This was another song that I wrote. I think I wrote the majority of it back in 2015. It's one of the oldest tracks that I reworked for this project. It was originally called Listen to the Cow. And then it was going to be part of the whole Shags reconstructed thing that I did a couple of years back. But it just never ended up working. So I used it here. And it still barely works, but it's fun. I love the fact that absolutely nothing that the druids do or say makes any sense at all. They're such a goofy villain. Do you remember? Yeah, I was trying to add more character to the druids by having some kind of internal debate about how nonsensical everything they were doing actually was. That they would acknowledge that somehow. Oh god, I forgot about this part. Yeah. I actually had something completely different planned out here. And as always when I was doing the narrator, I was improvising and I just fumbled words and oh, it's awful. It's like when you're talking and you realize halfway through that the things you are saying don't actually make sense, so you go back and you try to correct them, and it gets worse and worse. But I like it. I mean, I like it now. It was frustrating then.
referencing Graham's ship. It's the new druid's ship. It's the one that came in now.
Ah, it's so easy to follow.
Okay, good. Oh, yes, carry on.
Beautiful.
So Graham takes his crew and he tries to lead them
Yeah.
on the ship in the hopes the druids won't find them. We gotta sneak around. We gotta hide.
Yeah. There's some slight inconsistencies with the background here. Because in the beginning I downloaded loads of AI images for like, these would be Graham's ship, these images would be the druid ship, these would be, and I would categorize them all like that. And I love this sneak animation, by the way. It was such a weird idea, and it really works for some reason. Anyways, I was categorizing all the images, and inevitably I just need a grey background for this scene. Doesn't matter that it's supposed to be in another ship and the color palette's different and all of that stuff. It doesn't. I just need something here, and you end up with using everything all the time. And I don't think anyone really notices. I mean, no one notices the inconsistencies. Hang on, that's not Graham's ship in the background. Yeah. Sometimes it's actually really nice just to let go of these things. This whole idea that you have to have some kind of internal consistency, otherwise people will be up in arms and they will complain about it. No, they won't. No one cares. Just get on with it. The druids arguing. I love the idea of the druids not knowing if they are the druids or not. Away. Oh god. This is so weird. Why would the druid be in front of them? No. I really like this hard cut coming up here.
Sir, point of order. Are we the druids? I know you think we are.
This is probably the closest I get to actually doing like a Monty Python skit or something like that. This is such a... The setup is so Monty Python-y. Why would the druids not know that they are the druids?
Something that we abandoned the ship. They cannot steal something we have abandoned. Oh, yes, we can. No, you can't. Oh, yes, we can. Oh, no, you can't. Oh, yes, we can. Enough. Take these spells away.
I was tempted to let that piece go on for ages and ages. No, you can't. Oh, yes, I can. No, you can't. And carry on forever, but no.
Graham and the gang, his gang, are captured by the druids and then subjected to the vile, horrific rituals of this weirdo race of aliens, I guess.
Oh, God.
Druids are aliens.
This is such a stupid segment. Oh yeah, the part 2 thing. I had an idea originally that this would be divided into chapters, but I only ended up doing one, so... And it... Oh, it's just weird.
Forced to sing the ancient druid song of...
Oh god, this part. I love how pathetic this is. Well, I grew up in a church, and sometimes the singing would really be like this, and it was the most glorious thing when you're like when you're a kid and you're tired and it's a Sunday morning and you're like almost dozing off, and then this singing starts and it would be all over the place, and yeah, it just brings a level of like surreal to everything. I love it. So it was one of the last things I actually did for this film, was realizing they're gonna need a totem or like a symbol or something that they praise, and I ended up drawing that in 5 seconds. It was beautiful.
What could it be? Graham wonders and reminisces about the past and all the events.
This is actually the exact moment when I was doing the narrator thing where I suddenly realized where the story was going and just embraced it. Also where I started getting a bit more experimental with the visual. Like I like this dissolve thing. I think it really works. And then cuts to... yeah. And I started using more effects and things from this point on. I mean, it looks awful, but it gets a point across, I find. So, and I like the fact that it looks awful. This song was another one of those that I wrote like 2019, something like that. It was actually called The Memory of a Dream. Back then, it was about something completely different. I can't remember what, but I thought it would really fit here, so I brought it back and improvised lyrics. And God, that looks awful. I love the fact that he just flings himself into space in a blue-tinted spacesuit and just flies off. It's so random and weird. And I think it was David Lynch who once said something about that. Sometimes you're just trying to convey an idea or something like that, and it doesn't have to be fancy. You just need to convey the idea. I think it was David Lynch, or it might have been someone else. I don't know. But this is where the whole idea of the ship being their home solidifies, and I knew that the home would have to be destroyed, and then later on they would come back and repair it and come back and save someone with their ship, that they would have to reclaim their home. Oh god, this shot. This is by far the most complicated shot I did in the whole movie, and it's by far the worst looking shot in the entire movie. It's so stupid. Because I didn't know about transparency and alpha channels and all of that, the amount of green screening I had to do to just make it look like the table was in front of them, and it's awful. And the AI art is awful. This movie looks terrible, but I love it. And it's a good song. I like the fact that it's like the whole family singing it as well. Oh, here we go. That's probably the first part of the movie where I actually do more visual storytelling, and it really works for some bizarre reason. Well, I think it works. Oh. And I really like this song, even if it's horribly mixed. No. Beautiful. Can't remember what it was.
After reminiscing about whatever that was, the
I love how enthusiastically dismissive the narrator ends up being sometimes.
that's it. I'm not.
Oh god, this.
We're gonna escape now.
This was a huge scene in the first version of this. It carried on for like several minutes, and I cut it down to a few seconds because it was one of those parts that it felt very stagey and weird. I mean, it still does, but
Sing and dance.
oh god, this part. Yes. Well, this is another spur of the moment songs I wrote back in, I think, 2021 or something like that. I was working as a hang on, I must think. No, 2019. That must be it. I was working as a music teacher at the time, and I was trying to write a song that we could sing in class. That was like funnily stupid. Funnily stupid. That's not even a word. Yeah, humorous and fun. And it's quite difficult to sing. Actually, sit down and try singing like banana, 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 banana. It's actually quite hard. Ah, the sneaking. Sneak, little boy, sneak. I'm really happy with this sequence, actually. This is one of the parts of the movie that feels like the quality is a couple of notches over the other thing. And I love that Graham is in the background. Like the ghost of Graham is with him. Ah, beautiful. Oh god. I was so this is one of the, it's like, because it's really just a huge exposition dump, this, where you explain the motivation of the bad guys and everything, and I was so worried that there was going to be this endless scene where people just end up talking about the plot, but I think I've figured out a way to do it. Actually works. And I love the fact that he's just running back, and the text is kind of implying what he's thinking whilst running back. And I love the fact that despite me writing this really long paragraph about the nonsensical things the druids are doing, you don't actually have to read the whole thing. It's just 2 or 3 words and you get the gist of it. Yeah, I like that part. And this song, by the way, was actually 3 different songs that I mashed together from 3 different eras that just work together. But I really like the choir in the end there, the way it fades out. It's very Holst, like the planet Neptune or something like that.
This crazy sun god and they brains gang obviously don't want this to happen. So he rushes
Oh god, I love this.
to the gang. I mean sneaks. He sneaks back to the gang.
I love how the narrator is like the worst at telling the story. Oh, here we are again. Banana, 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 banana.
And now you go back to work. Work? Prison. Shut up.
I love that part. It's one of the few gags that I think actually works. And here's the question: how do we convey what the kid has seen? How is he explaining it to them? How do you explain that visually? And then you have to explain, where does Graham's mind wander when he hears all of this? Well, back to the things we learned from the beginning. That ship looks so goofy.
Okay, Jack, Ensign Roberts.
Yeah. Oh god, this part. I remember that Graham is supposed to just call everyone by name so they can get their plan into motion. And I just realized while I'm recording it that, oh yeah, I don't have names for any of the characters. Oh, yes. Which is why you end up with the weird scene that's coming up in a bit.
You did good, little one.
Oh, I love this little interaction. This is like my kids talking to each other. Oh god, my singing is all over the place here. Yeah. I love this spot though. Then we'll have a home again.
No, my name's not Jeffrey yet.
Yeah, this part.
Yes, I know.
Like, there was a character called Jeffrey, but then for whatever reason I forgot about that, and Jeffrey turned out to be a teenage girl instead, so... oh, God knows what happened there. Oh, and now we get our first image of the sun, which is another stock footage thing that I've been using over and over and over and over in all the videos I've been making for the last year. Just weird filters on it, and sure, it's a star, sure, whatever. Yeah. This song was originally recorded back in, let's see, 2019-ish. Hang on, we have to pause. This plan they have is so wonderfully stupid. Yes. We're gonna escape, but I want you to stay here and create a distraction while we escape. Yeah.
Maybe I'll see you later. You will?
No.
Hopefully. Anyways, good luck. I'll take care of this stuff. Bye.
This is one of the best sequences coming up here. And I love that he has to smash the control panel to send them off into space. I like it because it's reminiscent of what Graham did when he escaped the planet that had been destroyed. But also because the sheer madness of the whole thing. I also like the idea that they're being flung out into space and they're gonna somehow magically rendezvous with the old ship and then slow down, I guess. How? Yeah, brilliant.
Good luck, friends.
And I've always wanted to put that guitar solo in somewhere. It's one of my favorites from the last couple of years. When I recorded it, it was so weird and all over the place, and I like it. Yeah. Like, this shot is was not complicated at all, and it's one of the best shots in the movie. It's yeah. I can just imagine, like, slow down! Oh, hell! Ah!
So, in the final cataclysmic moment of whatever this is, we find our heroes have split up. Half of them
Yeah.
repair the old ship that
And one thing that was a bit weird with doing the narrator, or just doing this whole project the way I did it, is that sometimes it feels like the narrator is telling the story, but he's also giving me instructions on what to do to make sense of the nonsense that he's spouting. This is one of those instances where the absurdities just pile up, and it just,
enough for their ship to actually
yeah.
crash into the sun. He's gone in and fixed that as well. Computers, so never mind. Doesn't matter.
Oh god.
The ship is heading towards the sun. He's gonna distract them so it explodes and hopefully
Yeah, I like this.
or something. This is a great plan. Well done, everyone. Well done.
This was like, I had been recording for like 2.5 hours when I did that. Oh yeah, this. I was so happy I was able to use this song. This is another one I wrote at the early 2019-ish. And it was always going to be about this crazy, like, making bad guys do a dance. What, as a distraction. Bizarrely enough. Here's another thing. I would love to go back, in a sense, and redo some of this stuff, because the mixing here is not that great. All the vocal stuff, when it's just Graham and the gang, is it needs to be louder, as they say. And I think this was like the last, this entire last sequence, like the last 5 minutes, were made in the last probably 6 hours of this project, just before the deadline. As always, everything just speeds up. I spent so much time on like the other nonsense in the beginning, and then at the end, when you're trying to wrap it up, everything gets really intense, and you really have to work right to the wire to get it done. Another one of the really good shots I ended up doing that was so simple. Yes, I was so proud that actually worked, because I didn't think it would. And it's the one of the few instances where I actually used like a natural effect. Oh dear. Sentimentality. Really like this part. Whoa! But then it's immediately followed by a part that I don't really like. I really like the part of this song, but I simply did not have time to actually do anything special with it. I would have loved to done more stuff with Graham and the gang, filming them going to this thing, or going to save. But I just ran out of time, so it's the narrator in front of a black screen, and then there's text on top of space imagery. I would have loved to have done something more with it. But no, ran out of time. But, you know, it's a weird thing having regrets on a movie that you spent 1 week doing. Like, this part doesn't make any sense at all. Why are we watching the beginning of the movie in fast forward? It was really just I needed something to happen here. Because I didn't want to rewrite the song or rearrange anything, because I simply didn't have time. So the song was made, I had this like 30-second sequence that something needed to happen. It couldn't just be a black screen. So I did this, and it fills the purpose, but I wish I could have done something more with it.
Well done. Proud of you. Oh, I would be if I knew you. But nevertheless, I am proud of you.
Yes, I'm proud of you too if you sat through this nonsense. But I must say I'm really proud with the fact that the last 3 minutes or whatever it is of this movie is my absolute favorite. That I somehow managed to make it work. Because for the longest time I did not know how I was going to do this. I knew that it was going to be the dance, making them do the dance and flying into the sun, and Ensign Roberts somehow escaping and being saved by Graham and the gang. But actually making it happen was so complicated and weird. But I think it worked out rather well. And then he smashes the... Yes. Oh, forgot to make him pink tinted, but never mind. Yay! This... If someone sees this, they might be able to help me. This part, it reminds me of an anime I saw in the late 80s. I saw one episode of it, and it really affected me, and I have never been able to figure out what the anime was. But this reminds me so much of that thing. Yeah, thumbs up. Woohoo! It worked. Your crazy plan worked. And it ends with their family together again. Oh, brilliant.
And there we go. Woo! The end. The Graham and the gang fly off, and the Droogs
Swish bang.
into the sun.
Oh, yeah, so that was it. That was Graham and the gang and whatever the movie's called. And yeah, it was a fun thing. Real fun. I find it interesting to go back through my catalogue of all the things I've done, and the things I like the most are inevitably the things that were really improvised, spur of the moment weirdness, and this is included in that. I really like it. Yeah. Anyways, if you listened, then thank you. If you didn't, then how on earth would you hear me say this? You have a good day wherever you are, wherever you are, and however you are, and yeah, the stuff that he just said. Anyways, take care, everyone. Bye.